I can factor a 4-term polynomial by grouping. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is factor out a monomial. Look at what something is that is in common with both of them. So I see a 3, and I also see an x. 3x times x is going to be x squared plus. And the way you can also check this is you can think about going backwards, okay? Think about distributing it, and that would give me 3x squared plus 9x. So yep, that works, okay? Now let's go ahead and look for the common factor in b. It might help if we rewrite this minus as a plus a negative. Okay, now what's common in negative 4 and negative 12? A negative 4. And that leaves me with x plus 3. What's common here is a 5. Negative 2x plus 3. Okay, so this is really important because you have to be able to factor out one term before we can factor out two terms. Now we're going to go ahead and try to factor by grouping. The first step is to change all negatives to positives. So I'm just going to think about changing this to a positive and then make it a negative 8 and a negative 64. The second step is that we want to group them in pairs. So the first and second go together, and the third and fourth go together. And making sure that this middle sign right here has to be a plus, okay? So I'll add plus in the middle. Okay, now let's look at what we can factor out. So looking at our common factors for monomials, I have an 8 in both of these, and I also have r, the highest degree is 2. So 8r squared times r plus a negative 8. And remember, 8 times negative 8 is going to give me this negative 64 right there, and my r squared. Plus, there's nothing I can factor out here, so that's okay. I'm just going to leave it as r plus a negative 8. Now we're looking at what we have in common. Since this is exactly the same as this, I'm going to pull it all out in front and think about factoring it together. Just like if I had 8r squared q plus q, I could factor out a q in front of all of that. 8r squared plus 1. Okay, but instead of having a q right here, I actually have this r squared plus negative 8. So factoring all that out in front, and that leaves us with the outside terms. And this is a secret one right there. So 8r squared plus 1. If we were going to distribute this, we would multiply this blue thing times each of the terms in green, and we would get this step right here, and then we could distribute again, and we would get that right there. So basically, we're undoing distribution, and this is my final answer here. Let's go ahead and do a couple of more. The first thing we're going to do is change our negatives to positives, plus a negative, really. I'm going to go ahead and do 3 and 4 at the same time, so you can really see the process. Grouping the first terms and making sure that you include that negative when we're grouping terms 3 and 4, because we want that plus in the middle. Okay, now we're looking at what is in common. So I can pull out 2, and I can also pull out x squared. That leaves me with x plus 1, plus in the middle. And then negative 5 and negative 30, that's a negative 5. And that would be a positive 6x plus 1. Oh, wait, these aren't the same. So what did I do wrong? Oh, there's a mistake here in my math. So I should have had a 6 right there, because 2 times 6 is 12. It's really important that these do look the same. Otherwise, go back and see if you made a mistake. Now that I know that they're the same, I'm going to pull that out in front. 6x plus 1. And use what's left over in my second parentheses, 2x squared minus 5. Let's do the same for number 4. There's my final answer, by the way. Do the same for number 4. I can pull out, let's see, these are both even. So 2v squared would be 3v minus 8 plus, this is a little tricky, I think it's a 7. And that would be 3v minus 8. These are the same, pulling it out in front. 2v squared plus 7. Okay, go ahead and try 5 and 6 on your own and see if you can factor by grouping. All right, and I did number 5 for you down here. You'll see that this last term can actually get factored even a little bit more if we wanted to pull out a 3. So if I pull out a 3, I'm going to put it in the very front of everything. 7n plus 6. I pulled out a 3 from here, so that gives me 3n squared minus 5. And that's my completely factored answer for number 5.